How's it going, fellow KINE 562 classmates and Dr. D? Today we're going to have a presentation on my client and everything that I've done so far in the CAPS. And the first place we're going to start at is the health and movement assessment. So what I did with my client is a FMS, or functional movement screening. I'm fortunate enough at my job that we have FMSs on hand, so I didn't have to custom make my own. And basically what I used the FMS kit, or when I used the FMS kit, I saw a couple different things. Hip stability, that was something that kind of needed work when she was doing the hurdle test. My client was a little bit wonky in terms of the balance portion, and then there's a slight mobility. She was kind of bowing out her hips a little bit too much, but otherwise I would harken it back to more of the stability issue, is trying to open up herself a little bit so that she can get over the hurdle. So it was one of the biggest things that I kind of noted. And when we did the push-up test, another big thing was her upper spine tended to extend forward, and the elbow started to kind of flare out a little bit. And when we got to the test, it was a little bit on the harder side of the repetition range, where her form started to deteriorate and fail. So that was big. That was a big indicator for me that she needed to strengthen her upper body. Everything else overall, just slight form corrections here and there. The client did very good on the squat test, the inline lunge test, and everything else that was kind of involved with the FMS was very, very good for the most part. So we kind of had a good basis to start on, but definitely some room for improvement. And during this, how I set it up is an upper body lower split for her exercises being prescribed. One of the biggest things that I want to focus on, and she wanted to focus on, was overall strength and hypertrophy and leaning out. And that's something that she wanted to do within the past 4 to 6 months, which I had to clarify in my program, which you'll see in a little bit. It was a highlighted section. But definitely strengthen the lower half, and in the upper half, especially the upper half with the push-up test, is something I recommended on my own. So a different mixture of big movements, definitely. For upper body, I wanted to really focus on a push going forward, a push going up, and a pull going back. And then for legs, I wanted to focus on something like a squat movement, a hip hinge movement, and a one-leg or a lunge movement. So those 3 variations for upper body and those 3 variations for lower body, respectively. It's going to be an overall 4-day split, with increasing percentages throughout the week. So I'll kind of explain that to give you guys a little bit more visual as we see on at least the first week. So there it is, right there highlighted. It was wants it to be done within 4 to 6 month period. She is a novice lifter, so she doesn't really go to the gym as often, but she is well trained. She used to do a lot of dancing and sports when she was younger. So the day 1 is going to be the upper, and we focus on those big 3 movements again. It's the dumbbell row, dumbbell bench press, and dumbbell unilateral shoulder press. Why I picked a unilateral versus a bilateral or isolateral movement, I just wanted to focus a little bit more on one shoulder at a time for now, since she is a little bit on the newer side. And I picked dumbbell for isolateral movements just because I don't want to build any more discrepancies or one side being stronger than the other type situation with the client, as she is right-handed, and she is a little bit newer. So I just wanted to help even everything out for the most part. And then we had our bicep curls, dumbbell skull crushers, dumbbell reverse splice that kind of hit every single angle for the most part, with rotator cuffs, the tricep and bicep. And we started off this week with 70% on the big movements and 60 to 65% on the smaller movements in between that. And then the bigger movements will get 8 repetitions, and the smaller movements will get 10. The goblet squats, on the other hand, and the dumbbell RDLs and the dumbbell weighted lunges, they're at 70% with 8, 10, and 10 respectively, because these are going to be a little bit more on the harder side of things, but definitely a good easy movements to kind of go into for the most part. And then on the second days, the exercises are kind of changed a little bit. The pressing movements and the rowing movements are changed for unilateral dumbbell rows, inclined dumbbell bench press, lateral raises, dumbbell kickbacks, hammer curls, and Lou raises, which is a fantastic movement I really like. These are more focused on the posterior side of things, but definitely still on the lighter end at 65 and 60 to 65% in terms of intensity. And then the exercises for the legs is another variation. Dumbbell sumo squats, a little bit wider to kind of help with the posterior chain and get a little bit more hip opening going on. Hip thrusts with dumbbells at a unilateral leg press to kind of change up the exercises for lunges. Instead of doing lunges again, we'll give like a variation here. And it is an easier variation because it is the second day. And then the second day for legs is more focused on the posterior chain as well too, with leg curls and abduction machine to get the glutes and the hamstrings. While the first lower half day is more the abduction muscles, or adduction muscles, adduction, plus the quadriceps. So this is a very, very comprehensive upper and lower body split that I do with clients for the most part, and is something I always will give to novices because it is easy to follow, and it does kind of have a structure of the bigger muscle movements first, and then it gets smaller and smaller and more specific throughout the week, or throughout the day, excuse me. Okay, and then any other highlighted changes, I did forget on my end to add the rest times. 1 minute for the bigger exercises, 30 to 45 seconds for something that's a little bit smaller. With progressions, the second week would probably be 70 to 75% for the bigger movements, and then the next week after that is going to be 75 to 80, and then the next week after that, the fourth week, will be 80 to 85%. Probably somewhere closer to the 90 if we really want to test strength. And on the second days, we'll kind of be in that range as well too, a 5 to 7% increase per week, just so we don't tax the client too much, and we kind of give an ease of doing the actual prescribed exercises without jumping in with too big of a jump, or giving a client more of a difficult exercise when they're a little bit new, or a difficult intensity when they're a little bit new. Alrighty. So